welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hey, how you doing? My name is Ash. I am a makeup artist and a book lover, and I read a stupid amount in July. So this is my reading wrap up of 44 books. So yeah, I ended up reading a lot in July. And as I talk about it, as I do my makeup, I read a lot of short novellas on my Kindle. So that is the only reason why I read so much. And I forgot to mention this when I was doing my makeup. I did DNF 2 books. I started Half Sick of Shadows. I ended up DNFing that one. And I DNF'd the, what was it? The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic, something like that. Ended up DNFing those and actually just selling them at half price books. So I'm not gonna try to drag this intro out too much. So if you're interested in all the books that I read and the makeup and everything, you're in the right place. Just keep on watching. Alright, I'm just gonna hop into it. I have a ton of books to get through, so I'm gonna start by moisturizing with the MZ Skin by Dr. Miriam Zamani. I got this in my August Ipsy and BoxyCharm. This is the Calming Moisturizer. I've only tried this once and I really liked how it felt, so I'm just going to quickly moisturize with that because my face is freshly washed and I am just ready to get into talking about all these books. So the first books I'm going to start with are part of a trilogy. The third book comes out next year and I finally finished Powerless. Finally. I tandem read it with Powerful, and Reckless, which came out on July 2nd, I finally read. These 3 books have destroyed me emotionally and I need the third book to come out ASAP. I think it comes out in April of next year. It's so far away. I start on my brows. So I'll be honest, when I started reading Powerless, it was months ago and I just could not get into the story for some reason. So I only read up to like chapter 7 and then I picked up Powerful, and I saw online somewhere that you could tandem read Powerless and Powerful, which Powerful is Adina's story, which is Peyton's best friend, and you tandem read it with Powerless, and it's just like, that actually helped me get through the story so much faster because I managed to avoid all spoilers for Powerless, and it was so emotional. I did not expect to cry, and I did. Without spoiling too much, the story of Powerless is about Peyton, who is an ordinary, meaning she does not have any powers, because in the kingdom of, I think it's Ilya, you have the elites who have powers, like some are flame bearers, some can go super fast, some can disappear, some have super strength, and those are considered elites. And then you have like mundanes who still have some sort of power, but it's not considered elite status. The king of Ilya has decided that he wants to get rid of all ordinaries, so for the last several years he was having ordinaries captured and killed or exiled to the Scorches. So then you enter Kai, who is the future enforcer of Ilya. He is the second son of the king. The first son is Kit. He is set to be the new king eventually. Kai is actually in the slums. I forget exactly what they call it, but it's the place outside of the city where basically all the poor people are. He's out there to like kill a ordinary who turns out to be like a 7-year-old girl. Super young. And after his task, he's just wandering the street where Peyton sees him and marks him as someone that she can steal from. So she does. But then she ends up saving him from a silencer. So their paths crossed not once but twice. There was a big crowd and she didn't realize that she saved Prince Kai until after the fact, and then she became dubbed the Silver Saver. Now she's ordinary, but she's been posing as a psychic because she's really good at reading people. She has no ability at all. So she's been faking it and she gets thrown into the trials. So this story is about her trying to survive the trials while also fighting feelings for Kai, because he is the enemy, because she knows as soon as he finds out what she is, she will be killed. And the ending wasn't surprising, but I was still just like enthralled. But my issue with this book was that it took me so long to get into it. I don't think I really got into it until like after 150 pages in, like right before the first trial, but it did end up being a 5-star read for me. Same with Powerful. I gave this 5 stars, but I will say, Lauren Roberts, I hate you just a little bit for you just even writing this, because this is so sad by itself, but when you tandem read it and you get Peyton side and Adina side, it is heartbreaking. Going in with my foundation now, this is the About Face one. Now after that, I did not immediately go in and read Reckless, even though I picked it up the day that it released. And the only reason why I did not start reading this right away was because I just wasn't ready, because I knew the third book was so far off, which the third book is going to be called Fearless. But this story picks up immediately after what happened in the end of Powerless, which you can't really describe what this is without spoiling the first book. I will say I did end up giving it 5 stars because I did enjoy it, but I know a lot of people were not happy with this. It is a little bit slow. There's not like too much action in it, and it's almost like a filler for like extra background info, but I still enjoyed the aspect of Peyton and Kai fighting each other, working together, fighting their feelings. You also get tidbits into the mind of Kit, who is Kai's older brother, who is slated to be the king, like I said. I really liked it, but like I said, I can understand why people were not happy with it. And I know a lot of people ended up DNFing this book. If you're one of those, try to power through it, because there is an aspect in here that I saw nobody talk about. And I just wonder if anybody else caught it in here. But yeah, I gave that one 5 stars, and I am so excited for Fearless. And then I went into this book from Lucy Score. This is Maggie Moves On. This is a standalone novel that she has. This is about a house flipper named Maggie who has her own YouTube channel. That's where she does her house flipping. And she ends up going into this little town called Kinship, Idaho, where she's prepping to restore a very old house that needs a lot of work. And she ends up meeting the landscaper Silas, who she ends up hiring to help with all the yard work and everything. This was just so cute. I really enjoyed the banter in it. I like that Lucy Score writes her FMCs as like, what am I trying to say? She writes them like not dependable on a man. Like they're very independent and like they don't need a man in their life, but they will enjoy having one. I ended up giving that one a 4.5, and I just really enjoyed it. I just thought it was really fun. I liked the renovation aspect of it, which I did read a couple books that were like the focus were like house flipping, and like I love a good HGTV show every once in a while, so like there's just something about it that's just really fun, and I'm happy that I finally read this. And then I read Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is book 2 after Icebreaker, and the third book, Daydreamer, actually comes out later this month in August. I'm so excited for that because that's Henry's story. This one I gave a 4.5 star rating to. I really love the dialogue between the two characters. So you have Russ, who is a hockey player. He ends up getting a job as a camp counselor at this like sort of camp for kind of like rich kids, I guess. He goes there because he doesn't want to be back by the college in his hometown because he has issues with his family. But then you have Aurora Roberts, who she ends up hooking up with Russ like the day before summer camp at a hockey party because Russ is a hockey player. And they end up meeting again when they're at the camp and they realize, oh crap, I know her. And it's like, oh crap, I know him. They end up striking a friendship even though they're kind of awkward around each other. There's a big no fraternization at the camp, but that doesn't stop them from eventually hooking up. But I just really enjoyed like how they worked through their problems. There's no third act breakup. They communicated. And like one of the things I'm really liking in stories is when there's communication. Like all your problems can be solved if you just talk. Now that doesn't solve their family problems. She has family issues, he has family issues, and they end up kind of working together, and it was just so cute. And I have a newfound love for Russ, which I didn't have in Icebreaker, but I am so excited for Henry. Henry has been a sweetheart since Icebreaker, and I hope Hannah Grace does him justice in his book. Happy I finally read that. Cream blush, because why not? So the next book I read is actually a book I found on TikTok. I ended up ordering it on Amazon because I'm actually mutuals with the author on TikTok. And that book was Spring Harvest by, I may say this wrong, Retractable. That's her name. That's her author name. This is a thriller book where it's basically vampires meets Coachella. So you have this girl named Alex. She and her friends are going to a weekend getaway, which is a music festival, which is called the Garlic Groove Music Festival, which is in a little remote town of Allium Valley. Now, Alex is a mean girl. She is not very nice. She's not my type of person, just saying. Was enjoyable. She kind of almost redeems herself, almost. So she's at this festival with her friends, and things are just not seeming right. They hear rumors about stuff happening once the sun goes down, and they think nothing of it because they just think it's just crazy locals saying whatever. They eventually get to the area and they get set up with their camper. The first night doesn't go too horribly, and then the second night is when everything kind of falls apart and gets crazy. So this is just a story following her and her friends as they try to survive a vampire attack. There is a little bit of a love aspect to it, but not too much. And it was just actually really fun. I gave it 4 stars. You kind of get left at the end with the question of like, well, what exactly is going to happen with the people that are left. But overall, it was fun. It was a different take on vampires, and I like that it was more of a thriller than a romance, because every once in a while I like to just not read too much romance. You'd Look Better as a Ghost by Joanna Wallace. I picked this up at Barnes & Noble quite a while ago. This is a story about a serial unaliver who basically just, she doesn't like kill random people. They kind of like cross her paths, and she decides that she's going to kill them or not. You have Claire, who it starts out where she meets Lucas in a bar, and she ends up taking him home and she ends up killing Lucas because of a mistyped email. She thought that she had a great opportunity come her way, and then he replied as like, oops, sorry, wrong Claire. And she was like, not gonna happen. But after the night, she found that somebody was paying just a little bit too much notice of her. All this happens while she's actually in a bereavement support group because her father passes away. And then the thing with Lucas happens, and it's just a jumbled mess from there. She's trying to figure out who's on her case, who else knows, and then she just ends up kind of compiling all her lies, and she's very, very smart with how she gets everything done and places the blame on other people. It does say on the back, wicked, funny, and charming. I didn't find the dialogue or the plot of it overly funny, but it was a decent read. I ended up rating it a 4-star, but I kind of would probably kick it down to like a 3.5. It wasn't horrible, I just wasn't thoroughly into it. I'm gonna set my makeup. Well, I talk about a very awkward book that I read, which would be Meet at Midnight by Lux Alexander. This is a slasher horror erotica book. It is, it's a little much. So you have Jack, who is the massacre maniac of this small town. He just goes around hacking and slashing. And then you have Zoe, who their paths cross while he's basically doing like a massacre at an abandoned amusement park that people came into, and she ends up surviving and becoming just completely obsessed with this serial killer. So it's 2 years later, and Jack is trying to find his final girl, which is gonna be Zoe, because it's like the one that got away, while she is trying to find him because she's like, I want to unalive people with him. So she ends up becoming a serial killer in the area, which the area seems like it's a really small town. It's like eventually everybody's going to die. just a really messed up serial killer story. It's really short, it was really quick to read, but it was like almost a little uncomfortable. I don't think slasher erotica, I don't think that is for me. I like the idea of it in book form, but I just don't think it is like my cup of tea, because I follow some people on like Book Talk that are purely like, they read like horror erotica, just all the weird ass smut, and you know, props to them, but some of the storylines I'm just like, it's like dark romance that may not even be fully like romance. But I ended up giving this a 3.5 star rating. It was entertaining, not gonna lie. I don't know if I'm gonna read any more from this author though. And then I took a little break from my physical books and picked up my Kindle and I've read some things, which I'm going to just quickly breeze through that. So the first book I read on my Kindle was Daydreamer by Susie Tate. This actually just came out not too long ago. I didn't realize it was a new story from her when I saw like the little ad on Instagram. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. And I really liked it. So it's Lucy and Felix. They are childhood friends to kind of not friends to a workplace romance kinda. Felix is actually friends with Lucy's older brother, and Lucy is a very shy, introverted woman. She's not very confident, and she's been like basically in love with Felix for like the longest time, and she decides to move to London, and she ends up getting a job at his place even though she has no qualifications for it. Eventually they become romantically involved with each other, and then Susie Tate has this way of just making the MMCs complete dicks. He did something super wrong and then he has to grovel, but he does grovel very well and things work out for them. I do believe this book will launch another story based on another character that was shown in this book and Lucy's brother, which I'd be very interested in. Like, it wasn't bad. I actually quite like her stories. I gave this one a 4. It's so crazy just how she can write all these men as just dicks and then just make them better. It's a talent, really. Okay, and then for the next 4 books, I read these on my Kindle. They were under 100 pages, and I'm not going to put the photos on the screen because they lean a little more smutty and I don't want to get like accidentally flagged. So if you're interested in them, you can look them up yourself. These are all books from Rihanna Burwell, which is in the series She Teaches Him, which are basically just straight up smut. I am friends with the author on TikTok, and I just decided to try out this whole thing. I gave the first 2 books, Done Right and Taught Right, a 3, and I gave Effed Right and Called Right a 4. So I wrote, they are spicy novellas and they are interconnected by the characters knowing one another, apart from book 2, which is just one connection. The first 2 were basically just straight up smut, and then the last 2 had a little bit more substance to it, but it was still just basically all smut. And then the next book I read was Best of Me by Maya Aldine. I think that's how you say her name, Aldine, something like that. I gave this book a 4-star rating, and it's basically a second chance romance. You have Aurora and Gabriel. Gabriel is a single dad with a teenage daughter who really doesn't like her dad dating. So he ends up not treating Aurora right and not believing her. And his ex-wife is a piece of work. Everybody in his life was telling him that he is screwing up, and he's like, I don't believe you. Like, my darling daughter would never do that. Until he's shown evidence and he realizes too late that he screwed up with Aurora. And this is more about Gabriel trying to get back together with her, and she's trying to get over him, but she really does love him, and he realizes that he didn't love her in the right way. And I don't know, it was a fun read. I read it because I saw a quote on Instagram on one of those ads, and I was like, you know what, instant download, why not? So it was a fun read. It wasn't too long, and even though I gave it 4 stars, I still think at the end that Aurora deserves so much better than Gabriel. And I read Full Measures by Rebecca Yarros. This is the first in the series where it's kind of centered around military men. And if you didn't know, Rebecca Yarros is the author of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame and Onyx Storm, which comes out in January. We're less than halfway there. So this book follows Ember, who is an army brat, and Josh Walker, who she went to high school with, who ends up coming back into her life after something tragic happens, which her dad was in the military and he ends up being KIA. And unfortunately, it's right at the beginning of the book, so it's not spoiling anything. So they get the knock on the door the morning of her birthday. She's home on break for Christmas, and just that notification ends up destroying her and her family. So you have Ember, who's dealing with grief and a really shitty boyfriend, and hot Josh Walker, who comes back into her life, only for her life to get entangled with his, and then he shatters her with his secret, which I realized the secret early on. Not gonna knock points for that. I gave it like a 4.25. I really did like it. I liked how she wrote Ember dealing with grief and holding it together for her family. Obviously, losing a father hits really hard for me since it's been 2 years since I lost mine. I may have shed a few tears over this just because of that sort of grief, but I really liked it, and I want to pick up the next book in this series, which I believe is Beyond What Is Given, which is actually Josh Walker's roommate story. So I really like this one. Before I get into highlight, I want to preface this by saying I understand some of the things I read are not for everybody. They're not even for myself sometimes, but I read one, I was like, you know what? I should finish this out. So there's a series called Creature Cafe by Cleo Evans. It is a monster smut series. Like, monster. Like, I question everything. So I'm not gonna get into each individual story. I did read 1 through 13. These aren't very long. They're under 200 pages. Some are just over 100. And they all basically revolve around this cafe where the barista plays matchmaker. I'm gonna mix these two highlights together because I haven't done that in a while. So the barista basically will match up a human with a monster creature thing. So like, for example, the first book was with a human male and an incubus. There is MM, there is MF, there's FF, there is MFM. There's just so much. Overall, I give the series like a 4-star rating. It's not horrible. It's not horrible. I don't recommend it for everyone. That's so blinding. I do not recommend it for everyone, but if you're in the mood for lighthearted, more smut than story, monster romance, why not? Now, the series is not complete. I did see that it's going to be a full like 21 books. So books 1 through 10 is basically one part of the series. Then you have a holiday anthology, and then books 12 and 13 take place 25 years after, it's either 20 or 25 years after the anthology or the final book, which was number 10. So take that as you will. I, like I said, enjoyed it. Probably a little too much. So then I read the Riley Thorne series by Lucy Score. I read all 4 of these books. The Body in the Backyard just released in like mid-July in paperback, and I finished all these. So you have The Dead Guy Next Door, The Corpse in the Closet, The Blast from the Past, and The Body in the Backyard. So this is like a mystery romance series. So you start with Riley Thorne, who is basically just at one of her low points. She is living with a bunch of Octogarians, is I think what she says. Anybody over the age of 80. She lives in this house that just has a bunch of old people because she caught her husband cheating with the weather girl because he's a news anchor. You know, of course he cheats with the younger, busty, blonde weather girl. So she is the one that gets kicked out of her house with her husband, and they go through a divorce, and that's just a mess. She is completely broke because he ends up suing her. Like, yeah, you're a great dude, man. Great dude. So she's living there, and all the while she's trying to pretend that she is not psychic. She has wanted to just be normal for like her entire life because her mom is a little psychic, her sister's psychic, her grandmother is like majorly psychic. It runs in the family sort of thing. The premise of this story is she has a vision, a very graphic, vivid vision of her next door neighbor, one of the old people that she lives with, getting murdered. She doesn't know when it's going to happen, just that it will, And she tries to warn him subtly. And then in comes Nick Santiago, who is a PI who's trying to serve papers to her neighbor. And that is where he meets Riley Thorne for the first time. It's funny, when she sees him, and she gets a very vivid psychic image thing, whatever. So they end up working together in a way, all the while trying to fight any sort of feelings they may have, because Nick is not the type that wants to settle down. He's not the boyfriend girlfriend type. He's not any of that. But this story just sets up the rest of the series, because they solve one murder just to go into another one, and then something else, and then something else, and it's just, it was grand. It was so funny, so entertaining. Like, it's a big book, but you fly through it. It is so fun. I gave all 4 books 5 stars because I just enjoyed it that much. Like, all the characters in these books are so fun. And you get a little bit of the humiliation of Riley's ex-husband in this book, and it's just glorious. I'm gonna spray with my all-nighter setting spray and then move on to my eyes and hopefully wrap this up soon. Urban Decay just commented on one of my YouTube videos. I'm going to prime with my Anastasia eye primer, and you know, I did not grab any eye brushes. Why do I do this to myself? I've been filming for so long, I don't want to do anything super crazy with my eyes, but I'm going to be trying out one of these new Smashbox palettes that I was sent. Alright, so this is what this palette looks like. I thought it would go well because I'm wearing my Halloween shirt, so I was like, why not? So I think I'm going to start with this shade and just work that into my crease. And then moving on to the next book is The Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey. This is book 2 after Fangirl Down that came out in April. This just came out in July, and I really like this one. I gave it a 4.5 star rating, so it is age gap. It is kind of boss employee. So you have Tallulah, who agrees to be the nanny for Burgess's tween daughter. Tallulah and Burgess actually meet at a dinner in Fangirl Down. Tallulah is best friends with Josephine, and Burgess is friends with Wells from that story. So right away, Burgess is like instantly attracted to her. She is much younger than him. I think it's like 11 years age difference. So he basically ends up falling for her first, and like falling hard. And it was just really sweet how he took care of her, because she was absolutely frightened to actually be alone with him, because she has a past with a guy who kind of just messed her up for many years. And so he helps her kind of reclaim her old self, all while he's fighting his immense attraction to her. And like, of course, he's like a hockey player. He's tall, he's hot, he's protective, he's a great father. Like, what's not to love? The difference in this story was that he wants commitment and like a full-blown relationship, and she does not, because she, you know, she's young still. She is getting over a traumatic experience for her, and she wants to just kind of live her life. She didn't want to just immediately fall for somebody, which is like understandable. I'm going with a different brush but the same shade. I will say, if you don't like third act breakups, this one has one where he screws up and he has to fight so hard to win her affection back, but it is so worth it and so sweet, and I really enjoyed it. And apparently Tessa Bailey was originally only going to have 2 books in this. It was just going to be Fangirl Down and The Au Pair Affair, but then she was writing her character Sig, and we're getting his story next, which is going to be so fun. She had a little bit of a snippet of that story at the end of this book, and I'm here for it. I'm so excited for that. I go in with this burnt orange shade here, and I'll get into the next book, which was Ruby Spencer's Whiskey Year by Rochelle Billow. Is that right? Rochelle? I ended up giving this a 3-star rating. It's not bad. It was okay. Midpoint. It was okay. So you have Ruby, who is like in her mid-30s and decides that she is not happy with her life and how things are. And she ends up quitting her stable job and moving to Scotland to write a cookbook. So she ends up moving to this very small town called, what is it called? Thistlecross. I keep wanting to say Thistlefoot, but that's not right. So she ends up moving to this small town, basically almost like just a village called Thistlecross, where she ends up staying in this small house that is owned by the barkeeper, who she ends up helping out there as sort of a way to get her like work visa. So there are underlying issues happening in the town, and she kind of just gets thrust in the middle of it. She ends up meeting, I don't know if it's Broken or Brucon, but she ends up meeting him, and they end up, you know, becoming friends and then becoming more than friends. Except she's like hiding a secret from him, and he's hiding a secret from her. And one thing I don't get about the writing in this was she made the FMC very unlikable in a way. It's like, what do you mean you're in a strange country that you've never been to? You meet this woman twice, learn a huge secret, and decide that girl code for someone you don't even know, and it's not even falling under girl code, means that you should keep the secret from the guy that you've been spending weeks and weeks together with. Like, she put more stock in barely an acquaintance than a true friend, and that was just like so stupid. Now granted, Broken, I think that's how you say his name, he was keeping a doozy of a secret himself, and she catches him in a compromising situation and dip down into the shade. If anything, this book was just a little bit more annoying to me. I just was not fully into it, so therefore I gave it 3 stars. The next book I ended up reading was Priest by Sierra Simone, which I technically actually listened to this on Audible, but I did kind of read along with it as the Audible was playing, so it counts. Audiobooks count. It was my first audiobook actually, and I enjoyed it. This is so spicy though. One of the spicy scenes, I took out my headphones to play it for my husband, and he was like, what the fuck are you listening to? It's like, it's not porn. So Priest is part of a series where it's priest, sinner, and saint. It follows the 3 Bell brothers. This one is about Father Tyler Bell, who is the priest at his local church, and he ends up meeting Poppy, and his 3 years of celibacy just kind of out the window. Which, side note, I just never understand the whole, you're a priest, you can't be married or have intercourse or whatever. I don't know. Strange to me. I'm really liking the blend of this. I know it looks a little crazy, but I really like it. So this is basically about Father Tyler Bell fighting his attraction to Poppy because he's trying to hold on to his faith, and he's trying to hold on to his commitment, and he doesn't want to let down the church. He doesn't want to, in a way, let down his sister who passed away, and Poppy's just a temptation on legs. She comes into his life and she pursues him regardless of him being a priest, and I think that's where part of their relationship went wrong. They knew it was wrong, but they still kept going for it, and then, you know, shit hits the fan. This really wasn't bad. I quite enjoyed it. I ended up getting it 4 stars. I do have an Audible subscription now, which is crazy. I got 3 months free, so I have 3 months to figure out if I truly like it and if I'm gonna use it. I will be continuing on with the series eventually, but it was a nice little change of pace. It was a little too religious, but it is what it is. I'm gonna go in with this gold shimmer here while I talk about the last books that I read, which are all part of a series that I will eventually finish this series, but like there's a lot of books to it. And that would be the Ice Planet Barbarian series by Ruby Dixon. So, funny story why I decided to start this series is I, on Book Outlet, picked up one of the books, and I realized it's book 6 in the series, and I was like, well, that won't do. So I decided to start with books 1 through 5 on Kindle Unlimited, and downloaded those and read those. So it was Ice Planet Barbarians, Barbarian Alien, Barbarian Lover, Barbarian Mine, Ice Planet Holiday, which is like an in-between book, Barbarian Prize, and then Barbarian Mate. After that, I read Barbarian's Touch, and I'm filming this on the 31st. I started Barbarian's Taming, which I will finish today because it's only like 200 pages. So that's the series that I've read so far. I will probably give the series a pause after this last book, just because I want to pick up something different. Ooh, I have a ton of fallout with this. But basically this series is about these human women that end up getting kidnapped by aliens. And those aliens are very rude and do not nice things to humans, because they captured these women who are all the age of 22 to try to, like, I guess sell them on like alien black market. So books 1 through 6 follows 6 of the girls that were kidnapped, and what happens is when they're kidnapped by these aliens, their spaceship has an issue and they crash land on the ice planet, where they leave the human girls for now because they say that they're going to come back for them, because why not? They are seen as cargo, not actual humans or whatever. They end up picking kind of a leader, which it starts out with Georgie, and she is tasked with going out and trying to find something because they don't realize where they are. And she ends up meeting Vectel, who just so happens to be the chief of the ice planet barbarians, the Sakui. There's different pronunciations and I'm just like, I have no idea. So basically this is a story about these women trying to survive on this planet, which they have to get a symbiote to survive. And it turns out that that symbiote causes them to resonate with someone else that has the symbiote in order to reproduce. So basically they're on this ice planet, told that in order to survive they gotta get a parasite in them, and then that parasite is gonna cause them to hook up with someone and get pregnant. But caveat for that is they're gonna be mates and they will be together for the rest of their life. I like this little palette. It's cute. I'm gonna go in with this just to highlight my inner corner and brow bone. So that's basically the gist of it. So the rest of the books are about the human women trying to find their place with this barbaric tribe and learn to survive on an ice planet. And for that series, I gave basically all books basically like a 4-star rating. I ended up giving Barbarian Mate like a 4.5 because I like that story a little bit more. But books 6 and 7 are not the original 12 women. It's 2 additional women that they found another abandoned spaceship. And then I have no idea where the rest of the books come from because there's 21 books in this series and there's only 12 original women and then these 2 extra. I have no idea. When you read the descriptions, it tells you nothing. But I have been obviously reading a lot, but it's like reading is just so comforting to me. It's just to get out of my own head and just read. And I had a really good, really fun reading month. I don't think I'm going to read as much in August, but I am trying to focus on reading more of my physical books because I'm trying to get my physical TBR under 200. But those are all the books that I read. I am going to hop off to finish up my makeup and then I'll be back to wrap up this video. Alright, and here is the final makeup look. I really like how this came out. I need to pick up some more fake lashes because like I like these ones, but I need more options. I got rid of way too many when I did my declutter. But real quick, the rest of the makeup, what I put on, I went in with my Huda Beauty Legit Lashes Mascara with the Saint Lashes from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. And my lips are a combo of the Freckle Makeout Club in the shade 02. This is a lip liner, and then the Game Beauty Arm & Lip Gloss from the Attack on Titan collab. Very cute. I like it. I will say I really do like this little palette. It performs so well. I'm so happy to have it. It's so cute. I don't know if I can do like very versatile looks with it, but this is like perfect for fall time, even though it's literally just now August. But this completes my July reading wrap up. Let me know down below what sort of books you read this month, if you read any, or what you're looking forward to most in August. My most anticipated releases in August are on the 6th, The Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer comes out. That is book 2 after Assistant to the Villain. And on the 13th, there is A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire by Sarah Hawley. I read the first 2 books in that series and loved it. I am so excited for this one. And then on the 27th, Daydreamer by Hannah Grace comes out, which is the 3rd book in the Maple Hill series. I think that's the name of it. Not that I need to buy any more books, but like, I'm excited for those. So if you're interested, all my makeup details will be listed down below, along with all the book details and all my social media links and all my discount codes, all that jazz. Gonna be a lot of information down there. Make sure you check it out if you're interested in all of that. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. I know it's going to be super long, but thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, give this video a like, and if you want, you can follow me on my other socials. I'm artistryx everywhere, and you can also get more book content on TikTok and Instagram by following my account ashley_with2h's.reads. But I really need to wrap this up. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye. Turn this life into something that you can never run. So fight.